native tribes people hunting birds of paradise, which are displaying in the tree. And I dreamt that sometime I might get there to see it for myself. Well, in 1957, I did.
From the capital of New Guinea, Port Moresby, we chartered a plane and flew inland, heading for territory that was still regarded as being pretty wild.
After an hour's flight, we were nearing the middle of the mountains when suddenly we saw a wide, fertile valley ringed with mountains. This was our destination, the place in which we planned to work for the next few months, the valley of the Wagi River.
The Wagi people knew about birds of paradise, all right. They used their plumes as money, and they were essential elements in all important transactions. I watched a ceremonial dance in which each man had decorated himself with the plumes of at least 30 birds of paradise. Here I was looking at the remains of 20,000 dead birds. They were clearly so keenly hunted, we stood little chance of finding them here. So cameraman Charles Lagos and I decided to go into wilder country to the north. It was hard walking, but when we reached the top of the ridge that formed the wall of the valley, we ran into trouble.
I found, to my horror, that the men were refusing to go any further. They told me very firmly that this was the end of their tribal frontier.
I thought for a bit that we weren't paying him enough, so I thought, well, you know, another cake of salt all round, that'll be all right. But no, it turned out that they said that the people who lived beyond there were bad men. They eat people. They said, we won't go there. And I would say, no, come along, lads, we can manage this. When suddenly I noticed a white feather flickering behind a boulder, and I looked right, and there was another one behind a tree. And when I was wondering what this meant, suddenly these men leapt out of hiding and came charging down the path towards us, waving stone axes and spears. And I simply couldn't think of what to do except to go towards them and stick out my hand and said, "Good afternoon." And to my astonishment, they seized my hand, pumped it up and down, said, "Good afternoon, good afternoon." And it turned out that the reason was that this tribal frontier was where, when two people met, they made sure that the other person thought they were still warlike and tough, because if they didn't and appeared to be soft and peaceable, then obviously they were ready for a bit of rape and pillage. So whenever the two people met, they always looked ferocious. It certainly convinced me.
Much relieved, we carried on. We heard calls of birds of paradise, but we just couldn't find a place where we could film them. And then, after 3 weeks, one morning at dawn, our luck changed. Low